Hey everyone, for those watching and listening, Pete Jaworski here again, Toronto website developer. Super pumped for another Hacking Pro Tips interview. This with Philippe Harewood. Did I pronounce that right?
Philippe Harewood, yes,
Philippe
that's
Harewood.
correct.
Okay, perfect. Great. For you, those of you that don't know, hacker extraordinaire with Facebook. Some really crazy hacks, and all of it. I mean, you document a ton of stuff on your blog. And some of it is pretty insane. Like we're talking about, what was I looking at today? We're looking at the ability to take out, or rather look at all the CAPTCHA challenges, get those ahead of time so you can abuse Facebook. The ability to, well, I guess there was no CSRF on a number of AJAX calls, which you found, which was again easily exploitable. The access tokens was one of the ones that I found most interesting, and I can't wait to talk to you about that, because essentially you were able to grab OAuth tokens, which to me sounded like it was almost like a subdomain takeover type vulnerability, really. You were able to register a path, which I think is awesome. And then a few others, and I know one of your favorites was, or at least on the interview that I read, was the Facebook graph, using that and looking at intersections as well.
Yeah.
So every interview that I've had, and be it only two of them, I've talked to Patrick and I've talked to Ben, and the first question is always, how did you get started? So I would pose the same thing to you. What got you started with hacking?
I wouldn't say I got started with hacking. I would say I got started with bug bounties. I I used to frequent Facebook API questions a lot on Stack Overflow. So back then the documentation was very poor. I can be honest about that, and Facebook employees know that I'm correct about this. Back then, it was really poor documentation, so a lot of us would spend our time on Stack Overflow just answering Facebook API questions. And when you reach a bullet point spot, it's just like, okay, what's the next step? How do I bypass this? How do I get a workaround? Because you're not thinking like a hacker. You're just thinking, okay, I'm a programmer and I want to get this done, right?
Yeah.
So you go through documentation and you see loopholes there and you just use those loopholes. I probably posted a few loopholes on Stack Overflow. I don't know which questions they are, but I'll have to go back and look through it with a hacker mindset and see what goes on there. But after a while, and I saw Facebook publishing posts by Nir, Homakov, Jack Whitten, Joseph about bug bounties, and I was like, wait, you're telling me that I can actually get money for these workarounds? So from there, I just started doing reports. First, I followed the basic 10 OWASP, and that didn't help me at all because my first probably 4 or 5 reports were invalid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but after that, I figured out how to, write reports properly, and it went really productive after that. So it wasn't really a hacking section, like I joined the hacking site or I was on RNetSec or something like that, but it just kind of happened. I started reading a lot of blogs, and from there it just took off.
Nice, nice. I've got a whole range of questions, but I'm really interested in the fact that you kind of had the first NAs. Um, I know for myself starting out, I kind of had that as well. Like I kind of got in there and I thought, oh, this is great. This is going to be easy. And then, you feel pretty dejected when you get those first couple NAs. What was that like for you? Like, was it just, okay, they're there, move on, or?
Yeah, because what happened at the first point, my first bug report, actually, the entire bounty program at the time had a bug, and it sent me back the confirmation that I sent a report up to 5 times a day. So my first report got like 20 replies of the same message, and I had to speak to someone in Facebook, like an employee on IRC, and say, hey, I submitted a report, and this is just sending me like a bunch of confirmation that they got a report. And so I didn't feel dejected at the start because of that whole bug that happened. And it was me and this employee trying to figure out how to get to the bottom of it. And even if I got involved for the first close report, I felt good like conversing with an employee and trying to see how it could work it out. But their responses to how to close bugs are very nice. They actually like the same way how Uber has a treasure map.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook kind of hints you to where you should be looking. They will tell you, okay, well, this report is closed because you can't really do it this way, which is saying you should find a way to do it a next way.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, if you read between the lines, if you do it, but it also explains for people who kind of complain on Twitter about it that, oh, my bug bounty was closed, but then you read the response from Facebook and you're like, okay, well, I kind of agree with them. Maybe try looking at this other avenue. They're not saying don't submit reports anymore. They're just saying this particular endpoint that you're trying to explain is not exploitable. How you're saying it. So
Yeah, that is awesome feedback for beginners, right? Because a lot of times, at least I can speak from my own perspective, there are the great programs, and then there are kind of the mediocre programs. The great programs they do that, right? It's almost like a partnership. They want you to be there, want you to go after their stuff.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And so, like, has that been one of the main drivers for why you've been focusing on Facebook? Like, I noticed on your site, it's really just Facebook by the sounds of it.
Yes, I've developed a pretty good relationship with a lot of Facebook security employees. I've met a few of them at Facebook's DEF CON party last year, and I actually gave them a bottle of rum probably last year as well at Facebook Developer Conference for just like being a good sport and communicating well and being very patient with me. You don't get a lot with a lot of companies. That ability to, if I send a very nice report, they will actually compliment you and say, wow, this was a really well-written report, or this was a really nice find. And you don't get that with a lot of companies. I've seen it with Google currently, but I mean the Google, but a lot of bug bounty programs out there, they don't do that. They just say, thank you for reporting this bug. And it's sort of a robotic conversation.
Or you don't hear for a week.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The thing I like about Facebook as well is that if you don't hear for a while, sometimes I'll leave bugs for months, but they will probably update me every few months or every few weeks, depending on the severity of the bug, and say, hey, Philippe, I really apologize here. We've been working on this. I just want to let you know that we're still working on this, and I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, that goes a long way from a researcher's perspective, right? Like, I haven't been doing it long, but just the radio silence when you don't know what's going on, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it is. I actually participated on a program initially on HackerOne, and I didn't get a response for something like a day, not a day, a year. And when I finally got a response, it was a duplicate. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to participate in this program for a while if that's how you're going to move with it. It's not what I'm accustomed to. I guess if other researchers in the HackerOne program was accustomed to it, that's cool with them, but it's not my kind of vibe.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely appreciate that. And I think at the same time, for those that are kind of new and starting out, like that's the type of mentality, right? It wasn't kind of, okay, well, I'm just going to jump on Twitter and I'm going to start blasting the platform. I'm going to blast the company. And then I'm going to, berate these people on the actual ticket themselves and ask them for constant updates. You go kind of where people respect your time, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, I've seen there are a few people that I would respect that probably need that public disclosure to happen. Meals is one of them. He had a problem with, I think, Uber's program, and they resolved that in time because now they update the time that was changed of the scope at the top of the page. So that's good. I mean, but sometimes you need to be public about it. Sometimes it's not needed.
Yeah, and I guess with that specific incident, it is. I don't want to say it's unique, but it's a bit different in that they changed their policy, right? And so they came out. They said that we were wrong. They made that change, but it's different from someone who's kind of brand new to bug bounties themselves.
Yeah,
Don't necessarily understand what they're reporting, and then getting frustrated or angry when they're told it's an NA or they don't hear back or that type of perspective. And so it's good to clarify those two.
That's true.
So in terms of taking it back to kind of Facebook and when you started, so you had talked about looking at OWASP, and just reading the blog, I can tell that the approach has changed. And so what does that look like now versus kind of how you started out when you're looking at Facebook? Because a lot of the stuff now is kind of, and I mentioned in the email, kind of the communication we were having back and forth, it's the critical thinking, right? It's almost like the logical flow, as opposed to kind of fuzzing inputs.
Yeah, I no longer fuzz inputs anymore. I no longer try to look for XSS bugs. If I know for sure, I can find it. For example, there's one report that Jack mentioned, Jack Whitten, about how I uploaded HTML to certain Facebook server, and I didn't get very far with where I wanted to do it. But Jack was on the same kind of path as myself, and then he got caught by my bug because it was patched, and so he had to figure out a different way to find it. And it worked out for him. He got 7,500, while I got just 500 for my one. So so you don't. I've talked to even this guy number one on Bug Crowd about it, Mongo, and
Yeah.
he agrees with me. XSS and CSRF, they're going to be bugs of the past. Like Facebook and these companies, they're bringing out frameworks to protecting against it. That makes it very hard to just pop in vectors and expect something to fire. As opposed to you have people like File Descriptor who are just artists at XSS. Cure 53, they're artists. They can pop XSS anywhere they want. But if it's on Facebook, I don't know. Maybe they've tried and maybe they just don't have the vectors for it yet. But these bugs, to me, Facebook knows about them. Everyone knows about them. You read about them all the time. It's not to say that the security employees at Facebook are just sitting on their thumbs, not doing anything. Every time I publish a post or someone else publishes a post, that means everyone else learns, including Facebook employees. So I've even have like some of them following my Twitter account, so I'm assuming that they're following to see if I'm dropping any hints out there and trying to stay ahead of me, because these days a lot of reports end up being, "Hey, Philippe, how did you find that?" And I'm just going like, well, if I tell you how I find it, obviously no, I'm out of my
Put
money,
yourself
right?
out of a
So
job.
yeah, so it's fun. It's fun trying to be one step ahead of them, and it's fun for them to try to be one step ahead of you. It's good. And then you have people like Jack who joins Facebook and then ups the game for everyone else. So
That's right. It's funny you mentioned the competition. That was a theme that came up when I was talking with Patrick as well, right? And he talked about it being kind of, he sees it as kind of like a competition between him and the developers, right? Like him
yeah,
wanting to stay one step ahead of them.
yeah. I always think of it as, when it comes to writing reports, it's almost like a persuasion. It's like you're selling something
Yeah.
in a sense, and you are trying to convince them that this affects the integrity of their users and their customers, and they're trying to convince you, no, we're cool, we got this covered, we've got rate limits in place, and you're not going to be able to break it this way. So it's a battle and a balance. Sometimes I'll have reports go from open to close to open, depending on what information I send and depending on what information they send. Sometimes, I think I had one report, I sent some information, they closed it, and I said, okay, it's closed, and then they opened it probably a month or two after because they realized that this might actually have something in it, and I actually got rewarded without
Yeah.
even raising a finger, so it's OWASP. OWASP is good. Like, there are sites out there that still don't obey the basic rules,
Yeah.
but then you have sites like Facebook, Google, and like that, they know about these stuff. It's in the back of their head. They have books at the side of the desk probably with it. So you need to be more creative. You need to be like Mongo and participate in CTFs a lot and figure out more creative ways to chain bugs together, because this is going to be the way forward, finding bounties out there, at least in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. And what I find most interesting, and again, not being in it very long, but one of the things that I've noticed is as I start going after like the logic plugs, it's not as clear and definitive, right? Like it's, you drop a payload in there for XSS and you get the alert box and you show someone and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we are vulnerable to that. But when you
Hmm.
find the logical bugs and you find the information disclosure or the object access that you shouldn't have access to, that's where there's that kind of selling feature to it, right? And you have to
Yeah,
describe what that vulnerability is.
exactly, because it's not well known. It's parts of the feature that are not thought about a lot. Like, I talk a lot about GraphQL in some of my blog posts, and I talk a lot about pagination. Pagination is something that a lot of people have not really thought about well. When you apply privacy to that, it becomes a little complicated. So say you have a list of elements and we have a pagination field that says, okay, this list goes from apples to oranges, and
Yep.
then you try to like, obfuscate it with a base64 encode or something like that, and then Facebook in the documentation will say like, okay, the pagination traces are opaque. You can't put them back to any kind of number, but that's not true. You just take the base64, decode it, and then you have the actual index to your file, and these are indices that you shouldn't be having. So, for example, one of the bugs that that they patch now is searching based on how the pagination curses work, and the fact that Facebook ignores the privacy settings there. You can just use that. Okay, well, if it's still showing me this cursor here, that means that there's an object there that I don't see, but I know it's there because the pagination link tells me it's there. And you don't, those are things that tend to be specific based on a site. So like Facebook will have that, Google will have their own version of that little telltale sign that it's in the corner of the program that no one really cares about.
Yeah.
And nobody really put enough effort to say, okay, well, this is actually changing bits, or it's actually changing from true to false every time I do something. So I think this is telling me something, and I think I could leverage this in very complex ways. So
Yeah, that's. I think it's related to like that's. I'm thinking that's your June 30th report where you're talking about the Web Application Hacker Handbook that talked about search, right?
yeah, I shot down, and I probably got the book probably 2 or 3 weeks earlier. I'm just reading through it. I'm like, I wonder if there's anything in here that can help me out. And I read about this searching, abusing a search function. I think they were abusing it in a catalog. And they said they couldn't see the actual results of the catalog, but they can see the indices for the catalog. And I was like, wow, that's a really creative. In my head at that point in time, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, okay, well, let me try this with Facebook. And then it just cracked open a new attack surface for me. And I just reaped the cash up from that.
Yeah.
The rest is history. So, but after that, it became basically how deep you can go. Speaking to a lot of the respected Facebook bounty hunters from last year in DEF CON, Jack, Joseph, Matthias as well, you realize they are trying to find XSS and CSRF and bugs like that, but they do it in very, very deep ways. They probably had like a month or two of research, and they're so deep into some endpoint that you won't even know how to start to find there. Like I've seen screenshots from Jack especially who's reached parts of Facebook where they literally give him a pop-up that says, "Go away, hacker." And that's insane. Like to reach that kind of part of Facebook that they just give up and they just give you a pop-up that says, you know what, you're not supposed to be here, just go away. So
Man.
it's cool,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's the way at least I'm going forward. I'm spending a lot of time researching more, learning new languages, and just going very deep in Facebook code, reading a lot about their technology, their stack, going to the conferences, because that's where you're going to find any weaknesses now, because these are new technologies coming out. So it's the same thing all over again. With the API, it was a new technology at the time, hardly any documentation, a lot of weak points. They've reached a point in the API where they can say, you know what, I think we're a lot more secure from back in the days of Homokov and like stealing access tokens.
yeah.
So it's weird. Like if someone said, are there still bugs in Facebook, I'll say, yeah, there are lots, but it depends on where you are in terms of experience, and if you've had experience in CTFs or some similar program to get to them very deeply, because there are bugs out there. You might have to be whitelisted for them. You might have to be a verified account. But there's so many scenarios, and it's insane. Like I wish I was able to just sit down, write a book about all the different scenarios, and then I can just probably spend 2 weeks writing all those reports, and I'll probably be able to get all my money in 1 month. But it's really not that simple. It's like it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of persistence, and sometimes you're fruitless with your result.
That's a key point. I think especially for people new coming into it. I know, especially for myself, when you're looking at something like HackerOne and you're seeing the activity list, you're seeing people just pulling in bounties, you think it's easy money. But
No.
it's not, right? Like there's a lot of work that goes into that. There's a lot of work that goes into breaking down where Facebook might be vulnerable and then starting to dig deep and make that deep dive, right?
Yeah, the deep dive is it's real. I mean, for example, this morning actually, I woke out of a dream, well, semi-dream, semi-daydream of like thinking about a report. I was like, okay, I actually didn't tell them about that one section. So I woke up one time, pulled out the email and sent a reply to one of the Facebook tickets I had.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like I've reached a certain level, but I'm thinking about Facebook like 24/7 that if I think something or if I dream it, I'm probably going to get up and say, can that actually work? Let me give it a go and see how it goes. I haven't browsed Facebook normally probably for a very long time.
Hmm.
So like liking posts and commenting normally, I don't think I don't even know if I can remember how to. I can do it on my Facebook phone, on my iPhone, but I can't do it on my desktop. It's really hard for me. I'll probably have Brave Suite open. I'll probably have Chrome Developer Tools open. I'll
Yeah.
probably have a Developer API Explorer open, trying to test the endpoint. Something is probably open when I'm browsing Facebook. So it kind of takes away from the experience of actually using it, but that's the price you pay, I guess.
Yeah. Huh. That's wild. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, right? Like, especially when you're looking at an application like that, it's a different lens that you're gonna look through when you're thinking about where to find the bounties.
Yeah, you're right.
Crazy. So just there's one thing that you did mention that I wanted to kind of go towards as well because I know for those that are new it will be helpful as well. You had mentioned you were kind of looking at the documentation for Facebook. You were kind of doing the deep dive. Are there any other resources that you look at? Like I know we talked about Jack's blog, Mongo, kind of what they're writing about, what they're discussing. But are there any like we've got the web application handbook? Anything else?
Mm, it's probably just a lot of reading and probably reading over a lot of blog posts. I've listed on my Facebook page a full listing of all the bounty reports I've seen from any person in the world. And
Oh,
I've categorized them by type. So XSS, CSRF, API, rate limiting, and then you have the experts in certain categories. So Homicub and they're really well with OAuth token stealing. You have Joseph, he's very good at rate limiting and race bugs. And then you have Jack, who's like amazing at just breaking Facebook in general.
yeah.
And well, you have me who like I just love API bugs. So it's just my kind of addiction. But yeah, I've sent it to many people, very categorized. So if you want to like figure out a way to find a common bug that's dropped through the cracks of Facebook, it's probably to go through that list and just keep reading through it and see if you can change it about, modify it, see if there's a new feature that seems similar to it because Facebook programmers tend to use the same kind of framework, same kind of patterns when they do certain features, like a comment post, it's the same ID that you'll need to send, it's the same kind of um, data signature that you have to check. It's a lot of the same parameters. It's just a new URL endpoint that you have to go through. So it's good to read back through stuff. There are a lot of people, they don't read through it and they'll ask me, it's like, oh, how do I find this bug bounty? I was like, but there are like 60, 70 links in there, plus the 60 on my site. I mean, you can't tell me that you don't know how to do it now when I've like listed so much. You're kind of being lazy.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, right? Like again, it goes back to that idea that it's hard work, and there's a lot of work that goes up front, especially with reading and not only reading but digesting and understanding, right?
Yeah.
It's not all about oh, this is how that person dropped in that XSS payload, but it's what was the
Yeah.
thought mentality? Break that down, understand that, right?
Yeah. And you have to find your niche. You have to find that area in the security that you're really good at or you're really proficient at finding and understanding quirkiness of bugs. So if XSS is your point, you just stick with that. Don't try to find other bugs, and make that waste your time because everybody else is trying to find an XSS bug. With RCEs are your bug, like Mongo. Mongo's specialty is RCEs, so he's going to spend more time finding one specific RC than trying to find many like indirect object references, which are just like low-hanging fruit, you know?
That's another awesome piece of advice for people starting out, and it's something that I'm starting to realize. I know I suck at XSS, and when you look at guys like Jack, file descriptor, who are just pulling ridiculous stuff with it, I know I'm never going to get to that stage. And at the same time, just like we talked about, they're going to disappear, right? Like you have every browser targeting it. You have major frameworks now targeting it.
Yep.
I'm sure there will be bugs there that are minute and kind of on the corner edges and that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to be that guy that finds them.
Hmm.
And so it's that niche that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to find a niche. And I think going forward, at least for me, I'm going to spending a lot for the next 2 months or so. I'm going to try to participate in Google's CTF to try to like better myself and learn more. I've never participated in a CTF before. I mean, apart from trying to crack DEFCON's badge, but that's hard on its own. So
For those that have never heard of it, you want to just give a quick rundown on what that is?
a CTF or DEFCON's badge?
No, the CTF and what Google's would be.
CTF, from my understanding, is just you capture a flag in a program. So in a code program, in the source code, they probably have a flag that's a number or a phrase, and it's your point to try to break the program in certain ways, whether it be you pop it via XSS alert, whether it's pop it by a buffer overflow or stack overflow, or if you pop it by trying to get to root on a program. So there are various ways you can, even like a crypto puzzle can get you a flag. It depends on how the organizer organizes the flag specifics. So I think Google has a few teaser CTFs that you allow people to practice on. I haven't tried any yet, but I need to. So I have some books that I got off of Amazon to help me practice on those bugs, because I really do feel those are going to be the bugs going forward, especially with a lot of bounty hunters being employed by a lot of these security companies. I mean, you have Naham Sek. He's employed by Hulu right now, isn't he?
Yep.
So you have the
Yep.
best
He's
of the
starting
best.
there. And then Salesforce has a couple big
Yeah,
guys.
Salesforce has Near.
Yep.
So
And now
it's
Jack over at Facebook.
yeah, and well, Facebook is a power team. I think most of the guys now are actually past bounty hunters. Neil Poole is a bounty hunter. Reginald Salva is a bounty hunter. Zach is a bounty hunter. Like probably half to 75% of that team are bounty hunters. So going forward, I mean, I want to tell people to be optimistic, but you can't be looking for low-hanging fruits anymore, because these people, like myself, we tend to see them very quickly, and I pick them off in like 5 minutes. Like I picked off one in a bar. It's not
I
to
saw
like
the photo of that on Twitter. That's right.
yeah, like I was just browsing through something. I was like, this seems similar to a report I've written before, so I'm gonna write it again. And then they were like, okay, well, we check it out. And I was like, that took me 5 minutes, but it's 5 minutes of writing time plus a year of probably research, so that experience carries you a long way. So which it makes sense to participate in a lot of CTFs. So you don't have to try to go through the hassle of trying to find bounty programs that emulate that experience, where CTFs, you can find a specific CTF that has like an XSS section, a crypto section, a web app section, or even try doing Synapse application. I've heard that they're tested pretty decent, so I've never tried it.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried those either. But the CTF sounds awesome for Google, and then even the books and that kind of stuff. It's something that I'm gonna have to take a look at as well.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious of our time. We're coming up on the 30 minutes, and I really appreciate you sitting down for the chat. So just two questions to and then we can kind of end things off. I guess the first is, and we've talked about a whole range of it, but based on what we've discussed, any advice particularly for someone new that's starting out, that's just coming into the bug bounty world?
If you're coming in new from the bug bounty world, I'd say you have two parts you came from. Either you're coming new and you have little to no programming, then you have a long start ahead of you, and you need to like pick up a lot of programming books very quickly. You need to read and program like a lot to get that background and to understand what programmers thinking, and understand how to read code very quickly and how to browse through all the relevant stuff. Like I'll read through, like for example, that Facebook room I was telling you about. I did not sit down and go through every line of code. I tried to find where the worm was acting on, how it was creating, sending messages, how it was creating the clickjacking going on. I wasn't going through every part of code. I'm like, okay, if this does this, no, that's wasting your time. You know, in CTF, you don't have time to waste. So you need to understand programming very, very hardcore. Like pick up a language and see how it can take you. If you're coming in to the bounty world and you have a programming under your belt, then stick to your niche. You know, stick to if it's frameworks, if it's Ruby on Rails, like Homercurve. Homercurve loves Ruby on Rails. So any
Yeah.
Ruby on Rails application, he will destroy. You know, because that's his forte. So you'd want to pick places where you're good at. Don't pick places that are highly populated like XSS. I mean, I'm not trying to put down XSS. XSS is a very amazing bug. Like it's
No, exactly.
spectacular, but it's like an art form right now. The people who can get the bounties from it are getting bounties from it. A notable person is FileDescriptor on Twitter. He's getting massive bounties all the time from Twitter. You can't compete against this guy. To compete against the guy means you need to be ahead of him. The bugs he's showing you on the XSS vectors he's showing you, if you already tried them on Twitter, you already tried them on all the programs. So by the time he showed you this thing, it's more of an artwork. It's a painting you're watching. And it's like, this is a really nice painting. I would love to save this, you know. So that's, to me, would be my advice for starting off. You know, read a lot if you don't have any programming, and practice programming a lot, practicing how it works. Read the tech talks of a company. The tech talks of a company will release a lot of information that they're not saying. And they tend to do it very subtly. Like I've gone to Facebook Developer Conference and I listen to a lot of employees say stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're not supposed to say it, but because they say it, I already have ideas of where to target next. And it wouldn't be something you'd be able to find by normal Google Docking.
Yeah.
Where Google Docking is just, you're just searching through many sites based on certain parameters. Like you put in site facebook.com minus a certain thing like blogs, or looking at titles for certain phrases if you're trying to find a certain endpoint, or if you're trying to be like Wesley and try to find the sensor.instagram endpoint, you know, you searching title for admin, stuff like that. I mean, to me, Google Docking is a very, I wouldn't even call it a tool. It's just a way of me looking through information disclosure.
Right.
So I use it for a lot of places that I can't really say publicly, but those places help me find tons of data on how Facebook works.
That's awesome. That's, again, yeah, and it just echoes what we've been talking about, right? Like, and I think you're 100% right. It's not putting down the people that go after XSS, but there have been people that have been doing bounties for 2 years, 3 years, right? And they've been looking for XSS and they've honed those skills, and that's become their niche. You're not going to beat them overnight, right? And so when you're
Exactly.
looking at the logic stuff, you're looking at the application perspective, you need to kind of start putting yourself into that developer, those developer shoes. And a great way to do it, is to read the programming books and kind of know what they're thinking.
Yeah. And don't be discouraged about duplicates. Duplicates mean you're finding stuff already, but it means that whatever you're reading has already been tested like countless times. That's all. But the fact that you're finding duplicates before they're patched means you're still like not that far behind those researchers who are like actually getting the bounties. So you just need to move faster or
Yeah.
be more creative than them.
That's a good call. That's, again, another great nugget. Yeah, no, it's great. I've talked to some people who kind of, they get down and out on duplicates, myself included, right? Like I've just gotten 2 this week, and it sucks. But you're absolutely right. I found the vulnerabilities, right? So I just wasn't quick
Yeah,
enough. Next time I just got to be a little bit quicker.
exactly.
Again, so just very quickly, I saw the post on the Facebook worm this morning, and I read through kind of what you were doing, and it sounds like it's the second one that you worked through.
Yeah, I found one probably, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago. It seemed exactly the same people because they were calling it Facebook Red. I mean, I don't know if it's the same kind of hacker team or malware team that works on it. I mean, I don't do it like ethical reasons. I just do it for fun because I'm like, someone will send me a link and be like, oh, why are you sending me this link? And I'm like, all right, this is obviously malware trying to come through my system. Okay, it's obviously install this Chrome extension. Why are you trying to install this Chrome extension? And then I try to open the Chrome extension. I'm like, oh, this is why you're trying to install this Chrome extension. So it's fun seeing them do what they do because they're on the next side of the bench. You know, you're on one side trying to help Facebook, and they're on the next side trying to get money from ads. You know.
Yeah. That's I was going to ask you kind of where you got the link, but that makes total sense. Someone's trying to send it to you, and yeah, and it made complete sense to when you said you were kind of reverse engineering it because, again, that's another learning technique, right? Like you understand.
Yeah, it helps me with Facebook bugs in general. So I tend to anytime I hear something about hacking Facebook or black hatting Facebook, I tend to read along or try to reverse engineer what they do.
Yeah.
And see if I can do it. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and I'll just sit down and spend more time on it, or I'll keep it in the backlog to look at later.
That makes sense. So final question. What happens when Facebook knocks on your door and offers you a job?
I'll take it. I mean,
Nice.
you can't if they offer me it and I don't have to go through the whole like 3-4 levels of coding interviews and stuff like that, which I don't mind. I'm practicing right now for coding interviews. But if they just come to my boss and say, hey, do you want a job at Facebook? I'm like, yeah, sure, and I'll take a job and do that because bounties are gonna get a lot harder on Facebook, and it's not to say they're not gonna disappear, but the areas that you're gonna find them are not the areas that people are looking at right now.
Yeah.
And they're actually in plain sight. I just can't see where they are right now until I have my own dibs on it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Nice. Well, I look forward to those blog posts when you find them. And again, huge thanks. This has been awesome. I'm sorry to say to Patrick and Ben, but I think we might have set the bar a little bit higher, and I'm definitely going to have to call them out on Twitter because there's been some great info here. I really appreciate your time.
It's all good.
Thank you very much. So for all those listening, that's the interview. Hopefully we'll see you for the next one. I don't know when it'll be, but again, hopefully you'll have something more to learn. Thanks very much for listening.